You did not stumble here by accident. This moment is not random. You are reading these words because the unseen intelligence of the universe has placed you exactly where you need to be. There is a reason your eyes are here, your heart is stirring, and your awareness is listening. You are chosen to glimpse what most will never dare to perceive. The observer effect, where thought bends reality and presence writes destiny. This is no ordinary message. This is an initiation. If you are seeing this, the veil is lifting. The key is already in your hand. You are not searching for the key, you are realizing you've held it all along. This is the first and most disorienting truth, because your mind has been trained to look outward for answers. You've been taught to seek the solution in books, in mentors, in rituals, in distant horizons where the real secret might be hidden. Yet the paradox has always been this. The very act of searching outside is what makes you blind to the key already resting in your hand. You are not missing anything. You are not broken. You are not waiting to become whole. You are whole right now, in this moment, though your attention has been scattered, distracted, fragmented across 1,000 stories that told you otherwise. Think of how many times you shifted your entire day by something as small as a thought. You woke up one morning tired and irritated, and your mind attached itself to the idea that today will be hard. And then, without realizing it, you began to collect evidence for that thought. Every delay seemed more frustrating. Every mistake felt magnified. Every interaction carried the weight of your chosen lens. You weren't merely experiencing the day, you were writing it as you went, authoring it with the pen of your observation. And on another morning, perhaps you woke feeling grateful for no particular reason. Or perhaps someone's kind word warmed you before the day began. Suddenly, the same world felt lighter, more open, as though doors appeared where walls had once been. This was not coincidence. This was the observer effect. Your gaze was the sculptor, carving form out of possibility. And here lies the deeper paradox. The more you tried to control the world by force, the more resistant it became. But when you shifted your awareness, the world quietly shifted with you. Haven't you noticed how when you are convinced that people are untrustworthy, they eventually disappoint you? And when you carry the expectation that people are kind, life mysteriously sends you kindness. This is not magic in the sense of tricks or illusion. It is the fundamental nature of consciousness meeting reality. Your attention is not passive. Your awareness is not neutral. It is the active agent that shapes, colors, and animates the raw potential of existence. For too long, you have been convinced that you were powerless in the face of life, that you were merely reacting to circumstances given to you. But the truth is more radical and more demanding. You have never been a mere victim of circumstances. You have always been the one weaving the tapestry, though you did not realize your hand was holding the thread. Every disappointment, every joy, every twist in your journey has been touched by the way you observed it. This does not mean you caused every hardship in some linear way, but it does mean that your gaze has been the alchemist, turning each experience into meaning, transforming chaos into clarity, or clarity back into chaos, depending on where you chose to look. Consider the small miracles you have already lived, the moments when shifting your focus created a ripple that changed everything. Perhaps you were once overwhelmed by fear, convinced that you were cornered with no way out, until a quiet thought whispered, "What if this isn't the end but the beginning?" That single shift of attention opened a door that had been invisible moments before. Or maybe you remember a time when you held an image in your heart so clearly, an opportunity, a connection, a dream, that it eventually unfolded before you, almost as if reality had been listening. These are not accidents. These are glimpses of what happens when you realize the key has been yours all along. The danger, and the beauty, is that the same key can lock as well as unlock. When your awareness is focused on fear, it builds walls around you. When your awareness is focused on possibility, it creates opening. Both realities are true, but the one that unfolds for you depends on which door you choose to open with your gaze. You are both prisoner and liberator, both captive and key holder, because the lock and the key are made of the same thing. This is why awakening can feel disorienting at first, because you suddenly realize how much power has always been coursing through you, and how unconsciously you've used it to reinforce the very cages you long to escape. Yet this realization is not meant to burden you with guilt. Quite the opposite. It is meant to set you free. For if you unconsciously created suffering by observing life through fear and lack, imagine what becomes possible when you consciously observe through love, gratitude, and faith. The past does not bind you, for the key has always been in your hands, and the lock is always now, right here. In this breath, you can turn it. You can choose where to place your gaze, and by doing so, you begin to bend the trajectory of your reality. This is why I say you are not searching for the key. You are realizing it. The search itself is part of the illusion. Every time you believe you are missing something, you project that sense of lack into the field, and the field obliges by showing you more lack. But when you dare to pause, to simply notice that you are the one who notices, everything changes. The observer becomes aware of itself, and in that instant the cage dissolves. The door swings open, and the boundless potential of reality begins to respond. So I ask you now, can you remember the truth that has always been whispering beneath the noise of your doubts? Can you feel that subtle shift? The recognition that your gaze is not a passive light but a creative fire. You are not a spectator of life. You are the one through whom life is made visible. Without your awareness, reality remains uncollapsed potential, like a song that has never been sung. With your awareness, the song begins, the notes appear, and the world takes shape. This is your invitation, and it is urgent, because every moment you delay, you unconsciously keep weaving the same patterns of the old self, the same loops of suffering you no longer wish to inhabit. The world is waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to lift your eyes from the shadows you've been counting, and realize you've always held the torch. You are the author, the key holder, the observer who bends the story by the very act of seeing. The lock is here, the door is now, and the key is you. And so the question is not whether you have the key. The question is whether you will use it. This is happening because your perception is no longer asleep. You may not realize it fully yet, but something within you has already begun to stir, to awaken, to sense that the surface of life is not the whole of life. There is a quiet intelligence whispering in your awareness, telling you that what you watch is not neutral, that the very act of expecting something pulls it toward you like a tide. Haven't you noticed how disappointment so often comes when you are already expecting it, and how blessings arrive when your heart leans toward them, even before the evidence appears? You may have thought this was coincidence, some strange trick of the mind, but it is deeper than that. It is the observer effect moving through your daily existence. Reality has been mirroring your gaze all along, like water shaping itself to the vessel you place it in. And yet, while you slept within the old perception, you assumed the vessel was fixed, that life was simply happening to you. But now the awakening has begun, and you are starting to see that reality is more like a dance partner than a stone wall. When you lean into fear, it leans back, pressing closer. When you lean into love, it softens and unfolds. This awakening is happening precisely because you are ready to bear the responsibility of your own gaze. You are ready to know that the mirror is not outside of you. It is your very consciousness reflecting itself into form. Think of how it plays out in the simplest way. Perhaps you enter a room already convinced that no one will notice you, and so you shrink. Your shoulders curl inward. Your eyes look down. The room responds in kind, overlooking you as though you are invisible, because you have already observed yourself into invisibility. And yet on another day, when you carry within you the expectation that people will respond warmly, when you allow yourself to shine even just a little, suddenly the same room feels alive. People smile, conversations open, opportunities arise. The paradox is that both experiences were true, but which one you lived depended entirely on which lens you chose to look through. And this is not some abstract philosophy. It is woven into the fabric of your ordinary day. Have you ever anticipated a difficult conversation, replaying in your mind how badly it might go, and then watched as the conversation unfolded almost exactly as or when you dared to imagine it flowing with ease and understanding, found that the other person softened in ways you did not expect. This is no accident. Your awareness set the stage, and reality followed your script. The field does not question what you project, it simply reflects it back to you. Here lies the paradoxical wisdom. What you believe you are observing objectively, you are actually participating in creating. You are not standing outside life, measuring it like a scientist behind glass. You are in it, through it, of it. Your gaze is not separate from the fabric of events. It is a thread woven directly into them. To awaken to this is to reclaim a forgotten power. And yes, it is a power that can frighten you at first, because it means you are no longer able to pretend that your perception is neutral, that you can be careless with your focus without consequence. But it is also a liberation, because if your perception carries such weight, then you are never trapped, never condemned, never helpless. At any moment, a shift of gaze becomes a shift of world. You may protest and say, but there are things that happen to me that I do not choose. And you would be right. Life does bring storms, losses, challenges that seem far beyond the reach of your intention. But even here, the observer effect is at work, because what you expect to find within the storm determines what it reveals to you. One person sees tragedy and nothing more, while another finds strength, hidden gifts, and transformation within the same storm. The paradox is that both are real, but the one you live is the one your perception allows. This awakening is not about controlling every wave in the ocean of life. It is about realizing that you are the one who decides whether to sink or to ride the wave into a new horizon. And now, because your perception is no longer asleep, life is beginning to show you mirrors everywhere. You might notice how your thoughts echo back in synchronicities. A word you say appears on a billboard. A theme you've been pondering shows up in a conversation with a stranger. The mood you carry seems to color the responses of those around you. These are not random coincidences. They are reminders, little nudges from the universe, showing you that what you focus upon begins to crystallize. You are being invited to take this seriously, to live as though your observation is sacred, because it is. This is why urgency rises in your heart when you hear these words. You know on some level that to continue sleepwalking, to continue gazing through the lens of fear, judgment, or despair, is to keep scripting a reality that does not honor the truth of who you are. You are awakening not only for yourself, but because the collective field is shifting, and it needs conscious observers to guide the unfolding. Imagine the ripple of your perception extending outward. A calm presence steadies a room. A hopeful outlook inspires another soul. A loving gaze softens someone who was closed. This is not metaphor. It is the observer effect acting through you, multiplying far beyond what your eyes can see. The paradox then is this: you are not simply perceiving the world is perceiving itself through you. You are the mirror and the reflection, the seer and the seen. This is the mystery your awakening is revealing, and this is why you cannot dismiss your awareness as small or insignificant. Every time you focus on possibility instead of limitation, you tilt the scales of reality. Every time you expect grace instead of failure, you create space for grace to appear. This is not wishful thinking. It is the architecture of consciousness shaping the architecture of matter. So feel into this truth. You are not waiting for life to prove itself to you. Life is waiting for you to prove your perception to it. The mirror will not smile first. It is waiting for you to smile. The seed will not sprout without the soil of your expectation. The field will not collapse into form until you choose where to gaze. This awakening is urgent because you are being asked to take responsibility for the mirror, to stop blaming the reflection, and realize you are the one holding the gaze that shapes it. And so the invitation deepens. The more you awaken, the more life will test you, sending you situations where your old perception wants to rise, where you are tempted to expect disappointment, to anticipate rejection, to lean into fear. But these are not punishments. They are initiation. They are opportunities to practice holding a new gaze, to choose again, to collapse a different possibility into form. Every test is a chance to step further into your role as conscious observer. Every moment of choice is a key turning in the lock. This is why you are here now, hearing. It is not random. The field has responded to your readiness by guiding you into this message. The paradox is that you sought this teaching, and yet it was also seeking you. You are not separate from the wisdom you are hearing. It is simply the echo of what you already knew deep down, reflected back to awaken your memory. And so the urgency remains. Will you live as though your perception is casual and powerless? Or will you step into the truth that your gaze is the axis upon which reality turns? You are no longer you are awake enough to sense the mirror, awake enough to feel the responsibility of your sight, awake enough to know that what you expect begins to arrive, and what you fear begins to materialize. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to empower you, to remind you that you are not a passive witness to your life, but a participant in its creation. And because you are awake now, the universe will no longer let you hide from this truth. The mirror will keep showing you what you are projecting, until you claim your gaze as the sacred force it is. And so I say again, this is happening because your perception is no longer asleep. You are here because destiny has called you to awaken as a conscious observer, to know yourself as both mirror and maker. The collective needs your sight. The field awaits your choice. The moment is now. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering what you already are. This truth unsettles the old self, because it has been conditioned to believe that growth is about accumulation, about adding more knowledge, more achievements, more titles, more validation from the world. But what if the real awakening is not about gaining anything, but about peeling back what never belonged to you in the first place? What if the journey is not forward into a new self, but inward into the self you have always been? The paradox is clear. What you are seeking has never been missing, only hidden beneath layers of forgetfulness. Think of how often you've chased after transformation, as though it were a destination in the future. You said, when I have the right job, I'll be fulfilled. When I heal this wound, I'll finally be whole. When I meet the right person, I'll know love. And yet, whenever one of those milestones arrived, a deeper yearning remained. Why? Because the essence of what you were longing for was never out there. The job could not give you fulfillment unless fulfillment already lived within you. The healing could not make you whole unless wholeness was already your nature. The person could not give you love unless love had already been born inside you. You are not on a quest to become. You are on a path to remember. It is like the sun hidden behind clouds. The light has never stopped shining, but the sky can become so heavy with clouds that you begin to believe the sun is gone. Then one day a breeze passes. The clouds part for just a moment, and you are struck with the realization that the sun was there all along. You did not create the sun, you only remembered its presence. In the same way, every glimpse of joy, every spark of clarity, every surge of love you've ever felt was not something new entering you, but the eternal light of your being breaking through the clouds of doubt, fear, and condition. And yet your mind insists on making everything complicated, because complexity keeps you distracted. The truth is too simple, almost embarrassingly simple. You are already what you are trying to become. You are already whole, already luminous, already vast beyond measure. The daily examples prove it if you pay attention. Think of when you laughed spontaneously with a friend and felt a joy that required nothing external, no achievement, no accomplishment, just the purity of being present. Or recall when you sat in silence and for just a moment felt peace without reason, peace that was not dependent on anything working out. These are not random accidents. They are moments when you slipped out of the trance of seeking and fell into the memory of being. The paradox is that your efforts to fix yourself often reinforce the illusion that you are broken. Every time you say, I need to become better, you project a reality where you are insufficient. Every time you say, I must find the truth, you reinforce the belief that truth is not already within you. And yet, when you stop striving, when you surrender even for a breath, what arises? Often a surprising clarity, a sudden knowing that needs no justification. This is why so many spiritual teachers speak of letting go rather than striving harder. The real transformation is not the addition of something new, but the subtraction of what obscures what has always been true. Look at how this plays out in your life. When you were a child, before layers of conditioning wrapped around you, you lived more closely to this essence. You played without worrying whether you were good enough at playing. You loved without calculating whether the other deserved your love. You expressed yourself without fearing judgment. That innocence, that freedom, was not something you outgrew. It is something you covered with the armor of survival, of societal expectation, of self-doubt. And now the path of remembering asks you to lay down that armor, not because you are weak, but because you no longer need it. The self you built for protection has become the very cage that keeps you from remembering your boundless. Have you ever felt those flashes where time seemed to dissolve, and you recognized yourself in a way words cannot capture? Maybe while watching a sunset, or hearing music that pierced straight into your heart, or in the quiet after tears when suddenly peace emerged from nowhere. In those moments, you weren't becoming, you were remembering. You were touching the timeless essence, beneath the shifting costumes of your personality, an essence that does not age, does not fracture, does not need to prove itself. That is who you truly are, and every moment of recognition is an invitation to anchor that remembrance more deeply. This is happening now because you are ready to hear it. You may feel the resistance in your mind, the voice that says, "No, it can't be that simple. I'm not there yet. I still need to do more." But notice that even this resistance is part of the forgetting, another layer of cloud obscuring the sun. The urgency now is not to strive harder, but to surrender deep. The paradox is that by letting go of the desperate need to become, you finally awaken into the fullness of what you already are. And so the daily practice is not about reaching for something outside, but about noticing what is already here. The next time you catch yourself saying, "I'll feel whole when," pause. Ask yourself, what if the wholeness is already here, waiting beneath my expectation? The next time you find yourself grasping for love, stop and feel the quiet love that already beats in your chest with every pulse of life. The next time you long for peace, breathe and notice that even now, beneath the turbulence of thought, a stillness exists, timeless and You are not adding these things, you are remembering them. And the urgency, the destiny, is this: the collective shift cannot wait for you to perfect yourself in the future. It needs you to remember now, because when you remember who you already are, you carry that presence into the world, and your very being becomes a catalyst. Others feel it, even without words. Your remembering awakens theirs. Your wholeness calls theirs forth. This is why you are here in this moment. This is why you are hearing these words, not to chase, not to accumulate, but to lay down the illusion of lack and return to the truth of your being. So understand this: you are not on the way to becoming something extraordinary. You are the extraordinary one who forgot, and now you are remembering. You are not waiting for light. You are the light. You are not searching for love. You are love remembering itself. You are not moving toward truth. You are truth unveiling itself through your awareness. This is the paradox of awakening. It feels like becoming, but it is only ever remembering. And the time to remember is not tomorrow. The time is now. This is happening because the veil of the ordinary is dissolving before your eyes. For most of your life, you have been taught to believe that reality is solid, unchangeable, a wall you must learn to accept and endure. You were told that circumstances are fixed, that events are rigid, that what has happened defines what must happen next. But you are beginning to see through this illusion, to sense that what looked immovable was never as real as you believed. Life is not a wall. It is water. It flows, bends, and reshapes itself according to the container of your perception. You are awakening to this truth because you are ready to live no longer as a prisoner of appearances, but as a co-creator with the unseen intelligence behind them. Look at how two people can experience the same event and yet live entirely different realities. One sees only tragedy, while the other sees opportunity. One sees betrayal, while the other sees freedom. One sees loss, while the other sees rebirth. The outer form may appear identical, but the inner gaze defines the meaning. This is the paradox that has been hiding in plain sight. Events themselves are neutral. It is your observation that shapes their significance, and once you realize this, the veil begins to tear. What you once believed to be absolute reveals itself as malleable, shaped moment by the quality of your awareness. Think of times when you labeled something as the worst thing that could have happened, only to later realize it became the doorway to your greatest growth. Perhaps you lost a job, and in that moment it felt like collapse, like your world was falling apart. But months later you saw that the loss pushed you into a new path, one that aligned more deeply with your soul. Or maybe a relationship ended painfully, and at first you thought it was destruction, only to find later that it freed you to rediscover yourself. The paradox is that what once seemed like tragedy transformed into blessing, not because the event itself changed, but because your perception did. This is the hidden power of the observer effect in your life. It does not erase what happens, but it transforms what it means, and meaning shapes everything. This is why the veil of the ordinary feels like it is dissolving now. You are beginning to catch glimpses of how flexible reality is, how it bends not to brute force, but to subtle awareness. Have you noticed how when you decide that something will work out, you carry yourself differently, you speak differently, and somehow life begins to respond to that certain. And when you are convinced that everything will fall apart, no matter how hard you try to push against it, you seem to create obstacles without even meaning to. The outer world seems solid, but it is porous, alive, listening. It is not merely there, it is responding. And you are not merely watching, you are shaping. The paradox is that the more you chase control, the less control you seem to have. But the moment you shift your perspective, the whole landscape begins to shift with you. Imagine looking at a painting up close, pressed against the canvas, seeing only blotches of color and harsh strokes. You declare it ugly, chaotic, meaningless, but then you step back, widen your gaze, and suddenly the same painting reveals its beauty, its order, its intention. The painting did not change, but your observation did. So it is with life. Events may appear harsh when viewed through the narrow lens of fear, but when you widen your awareness, the hidden design begins to reveal itself. This is happening now because you are ready to stop giving your power away to appearances. The world has trained you to believe that if circumstances are bleak, you must feel bleak, that if others are unkind, you must shrink, that if challenges appear, you must suffer. But awakening is realizing that the event does not dictate your inner state. It is your inner state that illuminates the event. Haven't you felt this before when you met difficulty with unexpected grace, when you chose to see meaning instead of despair, and suddenly the weight lifted? That was you stepping beyond the veil of the ordinary, seeing the world not as a fixed wall but as water, ready to be shaped by the vessel of your gaze. There is urgency here, because the old way of perceiving, of believing life is rigid, absolute and beyond your influence, has kept you trapped in unnecessary suffering. It has convinced you that you are powerless, that you must simply endure what comes. But that story is breaking now. The collective shift demands that more of us awaken to the truth, that reality is not fixed, that it responds to consciousness, that the observer effect is not only a theory in physics, but a lived experience in the human soul. You are being called to live as though your gaze matters, because it does. You are being asked to stop letting others' eyes dictate your truth, because their observation cannot bind you unless you accept it as your own. And yet, even as you awaken to this, there is a temptation to dismiss it, to say, but the world looks so solid, so unyielding. Yes, and that is the paradox. Illusion always feels most convincing before it dissolves. The dream feels real until the moment of awakening, and then you see it for what it was. In the same way, the ordinary world has always felt absolute, until you begin to realize how it bends to your perception. The proof is everywhere. If you look, a smile changes the atmosphere of a shift in belief changes the course of a life. A single decision to see possibility where others see failure can change history. The veil is not as thick as it seems. So feel into this now. What if the very thing you are struggling with is not as solid as you believe? What if the problem is only a form waiting for your perception to unlock its hidden gift? What if the obstacle is actually the doorway? What if the loss is secretly the seed of renewal? What if the wall is water, waiting for you to pour it into a new This is the paradox that will keep unfolding the more you awaken. Nothing is as fixed as it appears, and everything is more fluid than you were taught to believe. And here lies your destiny, to become one who sees through the veil, who does not take appearances as final, who knows that the observer is not a passive witness, but a participant in creation. This is your role in the collective shift, to embody the truth that reality is not rigid, that it can and does respond to perception, and that when you shift your gaze, the world around you shifts with it. The urgency is not only for you but for all of us, because every awakened observer strengthens the field of possibility for humanity itself. So remember, the veil of the ordinary is dissolving, because you are ready to see beyond it. Life is not a wall, it is what. Events do not define you, your gaze defines them. Reality is not as fixed as you've been told. It is porous, alive, waiting for your observation to shape it. And the question before you is simple and urgent. Will you keep staring at the wall, or will you notice the water? Will you remain bound by appearances, or will you step into your power as one who observes differently, and in doing so, creates differently? The moment is here. The choice is yours. You are awakening now to the recognition that you are not separate from the field you observe. This is perhaps the most difficult and yet the most liberating truth to allow into your awareness, because everything in the world has conditioned you to feel like a solitary fragment, cast into a vast and indifferent universe. You have been trained to think of yourself as small, a witness to forces too immense to influence, a spark struggling against the storm of existence. Yet even as you believed this story, some part of you always whispered that it was not the whole truth. And now that whisper is becoming a roar. You are not outside reality looking in. You are reality looking at itself. The observer and the observed are not two, they are one. Feel the paradox in this, for it may confuse the mind, but it clarifies the soul. You are not standing at a distance, shining your gaze upon a world that has nothing to do with you. Rather, the gaze itself is woven into the fabric of the world. The one who sees and the thing being seen are made of the same essence, the same field, the same mysterious intelligence. This is why your observation holds power. It is not an external spotlight shining on something foreign. It is the universe folding in on itself, becoming aware of its own shape through you. You are the key, because you are part of the lock. You are the door and the one who walks through it. Consider how deeply this paradox reveals itself in your daily life. Think of the times you felt disconnected, separate, small. Perhaps you stood under the night sky, gazing at stars that seemed impossibly distant, and you thought, I am nothing compared to this vastness. But if you pause long enough, a subtler truth arises. Those stars are not distant strangers. They are kin. The same atoms that burn in their light burn in your blood. The carbon in your body, the oxygen you breathe, the iron in your veins, all were forged in stellar furnaces long before you took form. You are not apart from the stars, you are made of their ash. So when you look up at the cosmos in awe, you are in truth the cosmos looking back at itself, remembering its own beauty through your eyes. The observer and the observed are not separate. The same is true in moments of connection with others. Have you noticed how, when you truly look into someone's eyes, the sense of separation dissolves? For a breathless instant, you no longer feel like two isolated beings, but like mirrors reflecting the same light. That warmth, that recognition, is the universe remembering its own unity through human form. And yet most of the time you are taught to reinforce the illusion of distance, to believe you are one identity looking out at another, one self staring at an external world. But awakening is remembering that the very act of seeing binds you to what you see. The separation is not ultimate, only apparent. And this is why your perception matters more than you can fathom. If you insist you are separate, life will reflect that belief, and you will feel like a lonely fragment adrift in chaos. But if you allow yourself to remember that you are part of the field responds differently. Suddenly you sense currents of synchronicity, alignments that cannot be explained by chance, whispers from reality that affirm your belonging. You notice how the right person appears at the right time, how the right opportunity emerges when you least expect it, how even challenges seem to arrive with precision to awaken hidden strength. These are not accidents. They are the field conversing with itself through you. You might wonder, if I am the field, why do I feel so powerless at times? And here again lies the paradox. The drop of water can forget it is the ocean and imagine itself alone, tossed about by waves it cannot control. But when it remembers it is the ocean in miniature, the perspective shifts. The power of the field has always been within it, but its identification with smallness obscured it. In the same way, you feel powerless not because you are separate from the field, but because you have been conditioned to forget your belonging to it. Awakening is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what you already are. Even in your ordinary, daily experiences, this truth calls to you. When music moves you to tears, what is happening? The vibrations are external, but the resonance is within, reminding you that you are not separate from the harmony but part of it. When a sunrise stills your thoughts, is it simply a distant object painted across the horizon, or is it the fire of your own being reflected back to you? The beauty outside touches you only because it matches the beauty within. You cannot be moved by something that does not already live inside you. This is the mystery hidden in plain sight. Every moment of wonder is the field recognizing itself in form. And now there is urgency in this revelation. For too long humanity has lived in the illusion of separation, and that illusion has birthed fear, division, and destruction. Believing ourselves apart from the earth, we have wounded it. Believing ourselves apart from each other, we have wounded ourselves. But the shift you are living through now demands something different. It is no longer enough to think of yourself as a solitary observer, staring at a lifeless world. The call is to remember that your observation is the field folding inward, that your consciousness is not isolated but connected, that your destiny is intertwined with the whole. This is not poetic metaphor. It is the physics of being, the spiritual mechanics of creation. And as you awaken to this, something shifts in the very way you move through the world. You no longer see yourself as a powerless pawn in a rigid reality. You begin to move as though you belong, as though your gaze is not empty but creative, as though the universe itself is watching and acting through you. You speak with more care, knowing words ripple through the field. You act with more courage, knowing every step is part of the whole. You trust more deeply, because you see that the same intelligence beating your heart is orchestrating the unfolding of galaxies. This is your role in the collective shift, to live as one who remembers, to embody the truth that the observer and the observed are one, and in doing so, to dissolve the illusion of separation for others as well. So let this revelation take root in you. You are not looking at life from the outside. You are inside it, made of it, inseparable from it. You are not apart from the stars. You are their continuation. You are not apart from the people around you. You are different expressions of the same awareness. You are not apart from the divine field. You are its living window, its conscious reflection. And this means that when you see beauty, the field when you see possibility, the field bends toward creation. When you see unity, the field remembers itself. This is the urgency of now, that you step into your destiny as an awakened observer, not separate from the world, but interwoven with it. You are not here by accident. You are not powerless. You are not a fragment struggling against the whole. You are the whole, discovering itself in the form of you. And the question that remains is whether you will keep playing the role of the separate self, or awaken into your deeper truth, as one who sees through the illusion. This is not just your choice. It is your calling, for the world is waiting for you to remember. This is happening because the old self you thought you were can no longer carry the frequency of who you are becoming. The identity you once wore like a second skin, the name, the story, the past, the fears, was never the full truth of you. It was a costume stitched together by memory and conditioning, shaped by the voices of parents, teachers, society, culture, and 1,000 invisible agreements you never consciously signed. And yet you lived inside that costume so long it began to feel like your very body, as though the mask and the face were the same. But now you are sensing the seams loosening, the threads unraveling, and though part of you resists, another part knows this is the beginning of freedom. Think about how often you have clung to an identity that no longer served you, only because it was familiar. Perhaps you told yourself, I am shy, or I am unlucky, or I am not creative, and you repeated it so many times it carved grooves in your perception. And then life began to reflect that groove back to you. Experiences arranged themselves to match the identity you insisted upon. But now those labels no longer fit. They feel heavy, suffocating, untrue. This is why discomfort has risen in your life. Not because you are broken, but because the old self cannot hold the energy of the awakening within you. The paradox is that what feels like death is actually rebirth. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the shell that hid you from yourself. You are not collapsing. You are expanding beyond what you thought possible. You are not stepping into something foreign. You are returning to what you always were beneath the layers. When a seed cracks open, it looks like destruction. Yet it is the very moment of life's emerge. So too with you. The cracking of the old identity may sting. It may feel like unraveling, but it is the moment your deeper self begins to bloom. You have felt this in subtle ways already. Maybe there were moments when you surprised yourself, when the words that fell from your lips were wiser than your mind expected, when your courage rose in situations where you thought you would crumble, when compassion emerged where once you carried only anger. Those flashes were your true self shining through the costume. They were glimpses of what waits to fully emerge once you surrender the old story. And yet the ego, fearing its own dissolution, tells you to cling tighter, to hold on to the familiar mask, even if it suffocates you. This is the tension you feel now, the tug of war between the self that is fading and the self that is rising. Think of how seasons change. Winter does not apologize to autumn for letting go of the last leaves. Spring does not mourn the snow as it melts into stream. Each transition looks like loss, but carries the seed of continuity, the quiet knowing that nothing essential is ever destroyed. It only transforms. The same is happening within you. The person you believed yourself to be is falling away, and though it feels like loss, it is in truth continuity. You are becoming what you have always been, but without the mask. And yet this awakening is urgent, for if you continue to cling to the old self, you will suffer not because life is cruel, but because life refuses to let you stay small. The situations that frustrate you, the relationships that no longer resonate, the jobs that feel lifeless, these are not punishments. They are invitations. They are signals from the field telling you, this mask is too tight, this identity is outdated, this story is too small for the magnitude of who you are. If you ignore the call, the discomfort will only grow louder. If you answer it, the unraveling becomes liberation. This is not about abandoning responsibility or escaping reality. It is about shedding falseness. It is about no longer pretending to be what you are not. It is about refusing to live in a prison of your own creation. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to maintain an identity that doesn't match your soul? How heavy it feels to constantly prove yourself, to uphold appearances, to live by rules you didn't write? That exhaustion is not natural. It is the fatigue of carrying a self that is ready to die. When you finally release it, what floods in is not emptiness but relief. There is a paradox here too. Letting go does not diminish you, it expands you. When you cling to a fixed identity, you cut yourself off from possibility. But when you release it, you discover you can be many things at once, strong and tender, grounded and infinite, human and divine. You are not one label. You are the vastness that can hold them all. And once you taste that freedom, you will wonder why you ever feared the death of the mask. Think about the times you reinvented yourself, even in small ways. Perhaps you once thought you could never leave a certain job, until you did, and discovered talents you didn't know you had. Or you thought you could never live without a certain person, until life carried you beyond them, and you found yourself stronger than before. Or you once believed you were incapable of speaking your truth, until the words spilled out and you realized your voice was always there. In those moments, the old self died, and something truer stepped forward. Each time it felt like a risk, but each time it was destiny. Now this process is accelerating. The collective field is shifting, and it is demanding that you no longer cling to outdated versions of yourself. The world needs you not as the mask, but as the presence behind it. This is not simply a personal awakening. It is a contribution to the larger transformation. Every time you shed a false identity, you free others to do the same. Every time you remember your true nature, you strengthen the resonance of truth in the collective. Your liberation is not only yours, it is part of the liberation of humanity itself. So yes, the old self is dissolving, and yes, it may feel like loss, but what is dying is only the prison, not the prisoner. What is falling away is only the story, not the storyteller. What is collapsing is only the mask, not the face. And as you surrender to this process, you step into the freedom that has always been waiting for you. The urgency is to trust this unraveling, to let the old self die gracefully, and to step into the new not as something foreign, but as the homecoming of your own soul. And the question remains, will you keep clinging to the costume, even as it falls apart in your hands, or will you dare to stand bare, luminous and true? The field is waiting for your answer. Destiny is pressing against the fabric of your being, urging you forward. This is not the end. It is the beginning. This is not death. It is awakening. This is not loss. It is remembrance. You are not becoming someone new. You are finally allowing yourself to be who you always were, and the time to choose is now. You are discovering now that reality is not a static backdrop against which your life unfolds, but a living mirror that bends to the posture of your inner world. What you hold within does not remain locked away in secret. It leaks, it radiates, it informs the shape of what you encounter. This is why two people can walk into the same room and live two entirely different realities. One seeing only hostility, another sensing warmth. One noticing every obstacle, another drawn instantly to possibilities. The room is the same, yet their worlds are not. The difference lies not in what is out there, but in how they observe, in the vibration they carry into the field. The paradox is that what you call reality is less a fixed stage, and more a responsive field of potential, bending and reshaping itself around the frequency of your consciousness. This is not metaphor. It is the lived experience you've brushed against many times. Haven't you noticed that when you are radiant with joy, the world seems to smile back at you? Strangers are kinder, synchronicities multiply, even challenges seem less heavy. And when you are steeped in despair, the world mirrors it ruthlessly. Things go wrong. People are colder. Doors seem to slam. It is as though the field is not indifferent but participatory, arranging itself to echo what you project, and yet the world tells you the opposite. It tells you to wait for circumstances to change before you can feel joy, to wait for the world to smile before you dare smile back, to wait for proof before you allow belief. But awakening shows you that the mirror does not work this way. The reflection follows the gaze, not the other way around. You do not wait for the mirror to smile before you smile first. And the mirror responds. Life is no different. The posture you hold inside becomes the reflection you meet outside. This is why the observer effect is not just a quantum principle, but a spiritual law woven into the fabric of your daily existence. Your awareness is not neutral. It is formative. It sculpts possibility into form. And the urgency now is that you remember this truth. Because the field is becoming more responsive as consciousness rises. What once took years to manifest now may appear in months, even weeks. What you carry in thought and feeling is echoing faster, amplifying more clearly. The old delays are dissolving, and so your responsibility is greater. Every observation, every belief, every inner posture ripples outward into form. But do not mistake this for a burden. It is your liberation. You no longer need to beg the external world to change in order to feel whole. You no longer need to wrestle with circumstances as though they are immovable walls. You begin to see that the walls are not solid. They are mirrors. You shift inside and the reflection shifts out. And though it may not always happen instantly, the pattern is undeniable. The inner state sets the stage for the outer unfolding. Think of the times you shifted your perspective and watched the world follow. Perhaps you entered a conversation certain it would be hostile, and every word you heard seemed sharp. Then, in another moment, you chose curiosity instead of defensiveness, and the same person suddenly revealed gentleness you had never seen. The person did not change. The mirror of your observation did. Or perhaps you once approached a dream convinced it was impossible, and every step felt blocked. Then something inside you clicked, and you began to believe in its possibility, and suddenly doors opened where before there had been walls. Again, the world mirrored back the shift you carried within. This is why spiritual traditions across time have whispered the same truth in different languages. As within, so without. The kingdom is within you. Change your perception, and you change your world. The paradox is that reality is both utterly real and utterly pliable. It is not that events never happen outside your control, they do, but the meaning they carry, the opportunities they conceal, the form they eventually take, all are shaped by the way you observe them. You are not a powerless pawn in a rigid game. You are a co-author, weaving with the field. And so the urgency now is to choose your gaze with intention, to stop feeding the mirror the posture of fear, lack, and defeat, for the mirror will reflect them faithfully, to instead seed the field with awareness of possibility, gratitude, and wonder. For these too the field will echo. This is not naive optimism. It is alignment with the mechanics of creation. The universe is not mocking you. It is agreeing with you. Whatever you declare true in your observation, the field says, so it is. This does not mean denying your pain or pretending challenges do not exist. It means recognizing that your interpretation is not fixed. It means refusing to chain yourself to despair when possibility is always present. It means remembering that even when storms come, you are not only the one being rained upon, you are also the sky that holds the storm. The storm passes, but the sky remains, and if you observe from the perspective of the sky instead of the storm, you will notice openings even in the darkest weather. The field bends not to those who force, but to those who align. Have you noticed how when you are desperate, clutching, trying to control everything, outcomes slip further away, yet when you relax into trust, when you release your tight grip, doors open with uncanny timing. This is the paradox again. Surrender is the greater power. By softening your observation, by choosing openness rather than constriction, you allow the field to flow with you instead of against you. And here is your destiny, to live not as one who reacts blindly to the mirror, but as one who understands, to stop blaming the reflection and begin shaping the gaze, to realize that every moment you carry awareness, you are bending the field toward one potential or another. You are sculpting reality, not just enduring it. And this is not only for your personal life, but for the collective. When enough awakened observers choose to hold awareness of unity rather than division, the field itself begins to mirror that back into the world. You are not only shaping your life, you are participating in shaping the shared reality of humanity. So feel into this. What posture are you holding? What reflection are you summoning? If you do not like the image in the mirror, do not shatter the mirror. Shift the gaze. If you do not like what the field is showing you, do not curse the field. Choose differently with it. The invitation is always here, in every breath, to align your observation with the truth of who you are, and to watch as the field faithfully reflects it back. You are not a passive witness. You are a shaper, a co-creator, a participant in the dance of being. The mirror is waiting for your smile. The field is waiting for your gaze. The world is waiting for you to remember that what you see is never just what is. It is also what you bring, and the time to bring your truest self, your highest observation is. You are here because destiny has drawn you to this threshold, and the threshold is no ordinary place. It is not built of stone or wood, not marked by gates or doors. It exists within you, as a vibration, as a knowing that refuses to be silenced. You are standing in the invisible space between who you have been and who you are becoming, between the illusion of separation and the truth of unity, between the weight of the past and the promise of the infinite. You may have wondered if you arrived here by chance, by accident, by a curious series of coincidences. But you feel it, don't you? You sense that nothing about this is random. You are seeing this because you were meant to, because the field itself conspired to bring you here. And now, the revelation comes. You are not only chosen, you are also the chooser. You were drawn here because you have always been moving toward this moment, even when you didn't realize it. Every disappointment, every triumph, every detour, all of it has led you here. You may think of your past as scattered fragments, but when you look closely you can see a thread, an invisible line connecting it all, guiding you to this initiation. Even the times when you felt lost were not truly wasted, for the field was still carrying you, arranging everything so that you could arrive at this point of recognition. The paradox is that this destiny is both ancient and fresh. It was written into your being long before you took your first breath, and yet it feels utterly alive, as if it is being born in this very instant. You are not stepping into something predetermined in the rigid sense. You are stepping into a living potential that has been waiting for your yes. The door has always been here, but it can only open when you choose to walk through it. Destiny is not imposed upon you. It is fulfilled through you. Perhaps you have doubted yourself, telling yourself you are not ready, not worthy, not strong enough. Yet here you are listening, feeling the tremor of recognition in your chest. Does that not prove your readiness? For if you were not ready, this moment would have passed you by. You would not even be hearing these words. Your soul would not be resonating with. Readiness does not mean perfection. It means willingness. And you are willing now, willing enough to let yourself be shaken awake, willing enough to step out of the comfort of the old and into the fire of transformation. You have lived enough cycles of forgetting. You have played the game of smallness long enough. You have hidden behind doubt, behind distraction, behind delay, but the world cannot afford your hiding any longer. The collective field is stirring, shifting, reaching for a new frequency, and you are part of that shift. Your awakening is not just about you. It is about the collective, about the song of humanity rising into a higher harmony. When you open your eyes, the field brightens. When you remember your truth, others remember theirs. When you step into your destiny, you pull countless others forward with you. This is your role in the great unfolding. And so the urgency is here, not the urgency of panic, but the urgency of birth. A child cannot remain in the womb forever. At some point the contractions come, the body moves, the new life must emerge. That is where you stand now, at the edge of emergence. It may feel overwhelming, even terrifying, but it is also inevitable. Something larger than you is moving through you, something ancient and yet unborn, something both personal and universal. To resist it is to prolong the pain. To surrender to it is to step into your destiny. This surrender is not weakness. It is your greatest strength. For too long you have believed that strength means control, that power means domination. But now you are learning that true strength is trust, true power is alignment, true mastery is surrendering to the intelligence that breathes your lungs and spins the galaxy. You are not here to force life into shape. You are here to allow the deeper shape of life to reveal itself through you. And when you do, you find that the path is not random at all. It is precise, guided, filled with signs and synchronicities that whisper, yes, this way, keep going. Perhaps you are wondering what comes next, what steps you must take after this revelation. The truth is both simple and profound. The step is you. Every time you choose truth over illusion, you are stepping. Every time you choose love over fear, you are every time you choose awareness over numbness, you are stepping. It is not about one grand action, one dramatic leap. It is about the countless small choices of perception that accumulate, until suddenly you realize you are living in a new world. The key is not outside you. It is the gaze you carry, the presence you embody, the awareness you bring to each moment. You may feel the temptation to wait, to say, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps later, perhaps when I am more ready. But waiting is the old self's disguise, a way of avoiding the fire of transformation. You are ready now, or you would not be here, and the world is waiting not for your perfection, but for your willingness to show up as you are, luminous and flawed, trembling and bold, human and divine. The initiation is not for some future version of you. It is for you now, in this moment, exactly as you are. So let yourself feel the gravity of this. This is no casual encounter. This is a crossing, a sacred initiation. The observer effect you have been hearing about is not just a concept. It is a call to live differently, to see differently, to be differently. You are no longer a passive observer of reality. You are its co-creator. You are no longer bound by the old self. You are the space into which the new self is born. You are no longer trapped in separation. You are the field remembering itself as one. And here is the paradox that will carry you forward. You are both the key and the lock, both the seeker and the sought, both the question and the answer. You have been searching for the key outside of yourself, but you are the key. You have been waiting for the world to shift, but the shift begins when you do. You have been looking for proof, but the proof is in the resonance you feel now, in the undeniable sense that this is the moment you were meant to awaken. So step through. Do not linger at the threshold. Let the old dissolve. Let the new emerge. Let yourself be initiated into the truth that has always been waiting for you. This is your invitation, your calling, your sacred task. To live as the observer who knows they are not separate from what they see. To live as the one who remembers that reality bends to perception. To live as the key that unlocks not only your own freedom, but the collective awakening of humanity. The field is watching. The universe is leaning in. Destiny is pressing at the edges of your being, waiting for your yes. And so I say to you now, unlock the observer effect. If you are seeing this, you finally have the key. The door is open. The choice is before you. The time is now. Step through. Now, take this not as information but as initiation. The key is already in your hand, and the door is open. Step through it with awareness, with courage, with devotion to the truth that your perception shapes reality itself. If you are seeing this, you are not just watching. You are being called. Claim your gaze as sacred. Claim your role in the great shift. And remember, the observer effect is not out there. It is you. You are the key.